Yes, my book is about investigations of the International Criminal Court in ongoing conflicts. And the literature on these issues of having investigations in conflicts is very divided between questions of peace and justice. There are people who argue peace should come first, other people argue justice should come first. The essence of my book is basically to say it's a bit more complicated. There are many gray areas. The impacts of the International Criminal Court in conflicts are very complex. They vary over time. There may be positive and negative contributions at the same time. And another key essence is that you cannot fully divorce law from politics. The ICC is a legal institution, but in the moment where they are investigating in an ongoing conflict, they have to meddle in politics in one way or another, and for that reason they need political scientists, conflict researchers. They need their expertise in order to advise them on these issues. That were cutting edge at the time when I started to write my PhD. The book is based on a PhD proposal, and the International Criminal Court caught my attention because it's actually a trailblazer in a very new development, namely investigating crimes when they are actually still happening in a conflict. So suddenly you have to deal with questions of peace and justice in real time while the conflict is still happening. The first case where we had this were the investigations of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, when they were already established at the point when the Kosovo War broke out. They became the first tribunal to be investigating at a time when the conflict was still ongoing. But the ICC now is a permanent court, so many of the future cases will be cases that are conducted in ongoing conflicts, and that's what made the topic so interesting. Important points in terms of political relevance is, number one, when it comes to the United Nations Security Council. The United Nations Security Council has a strong role in the Rome Statute. They can refer a case to the International Criminal Court, and they have done so in the past with the Darfur case. But after the referral, we saw very little follow-up from the side of the United Nations Security Council. They basically did not support the International Criminal Court in the investigations anymore after the referral, and that should be a lesson for the future. They should really think twice whether they want to refer a case, because if they refer a case, they have to go through with it, otherwise they will damage the International Criminal Court as an institution, which is still a very young institution that needs to firmly establish itself. The second relevant question for politics is, how will stakeholders in the future deal with the International Criminal Court? We had a very prominent example, the negotiations in Uganda between the Lord's Resistance Army and the government. They had to try to negotiate a peace deal while the ICC was investigating one of the parties and while arrest warrants were in force for one of the parties. This was a new situation. They didn't know how to deal with it. In the end, they failed. The negotiations failed. So it's of high political relevance for stakeholders, for mediators, for politicians to think about how will they deal in the future with negotiations when the ICC is actually a party that plays a role there. It's an interdisciplinary book. I was trying to come from a conflict research, international relations angle, but I'm working on an international law topic. So the idea from the beginning was to bridge divides between disciplines and also between different sectors. So I'm targeting both political scientists, international relation academicians, as well as lawyers, practitioners in international criminal law, but also diplomats, for example. So it's really about getting across the sectors and across the academic divides to bring the people together and to approach a topic from a holistic angle.